Hi, I'm Kaylee, and today I'm going to be ranking all of the classics that I read in 2022. So I read quite a lot of classics in 2022. I read 13 classics that I term as classics that were written before 1914. And I read 27 modern classics that were written between 1915 and the 1970s. So I'm actually going to do two different sets of rankings. I'm going to rank the classics, and then I'm going to rank separately in a separate list the modern classics, because I feel like there's just no comparison. It's difficult to compare those. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe to this channel and follow me over on Instagram and Twitter and all the places. And especially give this video a thumbs up if you love classics. So now we're going to dive into the 27 modern classics. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that 7 of those are the Chronicles of Narnia, which I'm just counting as 1. So we're actually going to start down at the bottom with number 20. So down at the bottom, number 20 is The Story of a Whim by Grace Livingston Hill. So this is a Christian romance, little novella kind of short story. And I liked it okay, but it just felt kind of, I don't know, sort of unbelievable to me. Like the reasons why the characters do things is just kind of like, what? Why? Okay, I guess this is what you're doing, but I don't know why you're doing that. Whatever, you're weird. You don't make sense. It was just sort of an odd story. So number 19, 18, and 17 are Aunt Jane's Nieces on the Ranch, Aunt Jane's Nieces Out West, and Aunt Jane's Nieces in the Red Cross. I have really loved the Aunt Jane's Nieces series by L. Frank Baum, but they're not like the super best, these last books in the series. I really liked the first 3 or 4 books in the series a lot more. And these last books in the series, it felt like he was just pulling plots out of nowhere. And at this point, our characters have really already done all of the character development that they were gonna do. And their character personalities just felt very static at this point. So they go out west and they're having adventures, and they go and help as nurses in World War I. So like they're doing things, but their character personalities have just stagnated. So these last 3 books in the series were fine. They were okay, but not as good as the first ones in the series. So, oh well, they're down at the bottom. For 16 and 15, I have the BFG and James and the Giant Peach by Roald Dahl. I do love Roald Dahl, but these aren't exactly my favorites of his books. The BFG is very imaginative and fun. The big friendly giant and everything. It's really cute, but I feel like it's not as cohesive of a plot as some of his other books. BFG is a little bit random and kind of like, okay, I don't know what's going on now. Same thing with James and the Giant Peach. It's just, I don't know, there's big bugs and stuff and all these random things just kind of happen, and it doesn't have as much of a story arc as some of Roald Dahl's other books. So I do love these. They're really fun and imaginative and enjoyable, and I was happy rereading them. I mean, this is like my 3rd time rereading this. Like, obviously I like them because I'm rereading them for the 3rd time. But, just compared to Roald Dahl's other books, not my fave. Number 14 is The Girl from Montana by Grace Livingston Hill. So this is another Christian romance. I liked the beginning of this book. So it's this girl who lives on a ranch out in Montana, and her brother dies, and then she's kind of left without any male protection, and there are these men in town who are threatening her, and so she runs away. She just packs up one night and gets out of Dodge, But she's worried that these men are probably coming after her. They are in pursuit. So along the trail, she meets some other cowboy, and he's lost. And she knows where she is. She has a map or whatever. And so the two of them kind of end up traveling together, and he protects her from, the bad guys. So the beginning, it's lots of adventure, and these two people are getting to know one another as they're traveling together. But then the second half, now she's safe, and she's in the city with her relatives. She goes and lives with her grandma and her aunt. And then it's like the plot just kind of stagnates. The plot just keeps throwing up all these obstacles to their romance, where it's like all these silly misunderstandings. Like if you would just talk to each other and just say, hey, no, I'm not engaged to that girl. You know, that was a rumor and I'm actually free. Like just talk to one another. I hate those kind of things. The second half of the book just went on and on and on, and that's why it's low on this list. Okay, number 13 is The Naughtiest Girl Again by Enid Blyton. So I really loved The Naughtiest Girl in School. I thought it was so funny. So the second book now, it just kind of, it's almost like it just ended up doing the same tropes again from the first book. And I liked the first book, but I didn't want to read that exact same thing again. I guess I was just kind of looking for something different, something to further the story instead of just sort of rehashing a lot of the same things again. No wonder it's called The Naughtiest Girl Again. So for number 12, I have the famous 5 books, also by Enid Blyton, 5 on a Treasure Island and 5 Go Adventuring Again. I really liked these. It's about these cousins who go looking for treasure on an island, and they have all these adventures, and then they think that there's like spies that are trying to steal from their father. So it is really fun and adventurous and everything. I liked it, but then it took me like halfway through the first book to realize that the 5th person of the famous 5 is actually the dog. So there's 4 children and a dog, okay? So I was just like, where's the 5th person? It took me a while to figure out. The 5th person is the dog, whatever. Numbers 11 and 10 are Through the Green Gate and Down the River Road. These are 2 of the Alice and Jerry books that were published in the 1950s. I loved reading these when I was a kid. I've read them over and over and over. And sometimes when I'm feeling stressed out or maybe I'm sick, I'll go back and reread them, just like the nostalgia and the fun. One of the things I super love about these books is the beautiful illustrations. Okay, number 9 is Aunt Crete's Emancipation by Grace Livingston Hill. I think I super loved this because it is a Christian story, but it's not a Christian romance. Grace Livingston Hill is known for her Christian romances, and this is a lovely novella that does not contain a romance. It's all about Aunt Crete. Her name is Lucretia, I think, and they call her Crete. And she just lives a drab existence until her long-lost nephew comes back from the West, and he has struck it rich out in the gold mines, and now he's here to take care of his Aunt Crete. And so it's all about this lovely family relationship between them and how she kind of like becomes a mother to him. And it's just so adorable. I mean, oh my goodness, this was just such a lovely story about these family dynamics. And it's lovely to see how Aunt Crete just sort of blossoms once she finds the freedom to just really be herself. It was just so adorable from start to finish. I loved it. Number 8 is another reread from my childhood, That Boy Johnny. When I was a kid, I loved rereading it over and over. So Johnny is a boy growing up on the farm, and he is just so rambunctious and always getting into trouble. He has all sorts of different little adventures around the farm and just mischievous things that he does. I loved his whole family and the whole setting of, you know, the old farm and everything. It's just so adorable. Number 7 was another reread as well, Kilmeny of the Orchard by L.M. Montgomery. I haven't read this in a few years, but I think this was probably my 6th or 7th time rereading it. Nobody does these like wholesome, you know, old-fashioned, charming romances like Ellen Montgomery. And I feel like this is one that's always near to my heart because Kilmeny is a musician. She plays the violin, and I'm a musician, I play piano. And so I feel like I just really connect with her character because she expresses herself through music. So that one's always a favorite. Number 6 is The Little Book Room. This is a collection of short stories, and every single one of these stories was just so enchanting. So lovely. Like, I just can't even describe to you like the old-fashioned charm of these beautiful stories. The writing and the plots and the characters and the lovely little illustrations, just Oh my goodness, this was such a favorite. And then number 5 is Matilda by Roald Dahl. This is my favorite book by Roald Dahl, and I reread it this year for the 12th or 13th time. I don't even know how many times I've read Matilda. Matilda loves to read books, and that is why I love Matilda. She is just so smart, and I love Miss Honey. Miss Honey is one of the reasons why I was inspired to become a teacher, because Miss Honey is just such a wonderful, amazing teacher. She really connects with her students, and she cares about her students, and she inspires Matilda. So many things that I love about Matilda. Number 4 was Knowing God by J.I. Packer. So in this book, every chapter talks about a different attribute of God. And this really made me think about my faith and about what it means to know God and to have a personal, close relationship with God. It just made me think about things in a different way. And a lot of the attributes of God that you would think would be contradictory actually work together. Things like justice and mercy, and things like love and God's wrath. Those things actually work together. And as I was reading it, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, this actually makes sense now. So I really enjoyed that, and I felt like it just enriched my spiritual life so much. Another great read this year that enriched my spiritual life, number 3, The Pursuit of God by A.W. Tozer. So this is a little bit of a shorter book, but it really goes straight to the point of what does it mean to seek after God? Like, what sort of attitudes should we have if we are going to live a life where we are seeking after the spiritual things and spiritual truth, and we want to have faith in God? I think my favorite chapter was probably the chapter about faith. Like, what is faith and what does it actually mean to have faith? A.W. Tozer just always gets right to the heart of things and just explains things in such a simple way that's very understandable. And number 2 this year, I'm not really sure where I want to put this one actually. Now that I'm looking at my list, I'm kind of rethinking it. At number 2, I had put The Man Born to be King by Dorothy Sayers, but I don't know. I feel like I want to put Knowing God at number 2 and maybe boot Man Born to be King down to number 4. I'm not sure, but all 3 of these books are books that made me think about God in some new way, that just gave me some different perspective, So The Man Born to be King is a historical fiction about Jesus Christ, and it goes through his birth all the way to his crucifixion and resurrection, but it's told from the perspective of ordinary people around him, just from the perspective of the disciples. And it made me think about the Bible, just in a different way, think about the disciples as like, these were real historical figures who actually lived in this time. And this was just their ordinary life that they were going about, and they were just sitting down to dinner. And then there's Jesus sitting across the table from them, having an everyday conversation with them. And it was just so interesting to imagine more of the details around the Bible story. The Bible gives us more kind of an outline of the major things that Christ did during his ministry on earth. But then these radio plays just give us these little imagined details and imagined dialogue. So I felt like it was really, really impactful, because it just made me imagine, what must it have been like to be right there with Jesus. But now I'm thinking I kind of want to switch Knowing God and Man Born to be King to different places on my list. They're all so good. It's hard to rank some of these at the top when it's something that has really, made an impact on you in your spiritual understanding. Okay, so the number 1 favorite modern classic that I read in 2022 was I reread all of the Chronicles of Narnia. So this is, my 25th time reading Chronicles of Narnia, and I enjoyed it just as much as ever. There's just something about these books that really speaks to me on so many different levels. First of all, they're just great stories, and there's wonderful character development, and of course the imaginary fantasy setting and all of the magic and everything. But then also there's so many spiritual themes that really speak to you on a deep level. There's just so many good things about the Chronicles of Narnia. I just love it so much. Okay, so that is my ranking of all of the modern classics that I read in 2022. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know what was maybe the worst classic that you read, or what was your favorite classic that you read this past year. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.